Your avocado toast references.
I do. I do. Welcome to be the market expert. And I absolutely do. I wanted to lead off with this thing. And so here is Redfin News, and it says avocado toast, no more. Struggling young renters forego restaurants, skip meals to afford rent. And yes, I saw avocado toast reference. Absolutely. Let's start off the meeting with this. And because I'm a millennial, I'm allowed to make fun of millennials. And this is what it does. But they're actually going after Gen Z, and millennials are number two. But if we look at this thing, I just wanted to look at kind of like their infographics here. And it says 70% of millennials, Gen Z renters struggle to make housing payments. And to what extent, if any, do you struggle to afford your regular rent or mortgage payment? And so it goes through, right? So we're looking at baby boomer, Gen X, millennial, Gen Z, baby boomer renter, Gen X renter, millennial slash Gen Z renter, which I actually find very, very interesting that they have put Gen Z and millennial together. And when we're kind of looking at this, because they've never put like baby boomer and Gen X together. And so I almost kind of think of those kind of going hand to hand as well. But if we look at this thing, it says, can I afford easily afford rent? And so when we're going through, it's the 79% of the baby boomer population says they can, 63% of Gen X, which is just a little bit younger, and then millennial, Gen Z, and it kind of just goes through. And then it says, I sometimes struggle. We kind of see this go up higher. I regularly struggle. It goes up higher, and I struggle greatly. And Gen X and Millennial Gen Z says, yeah, I kind of do. Well, when we scroll down, we look a little bit deeper. It says 1 in 5 young renters who struggle to make housing payments skip meals to make rent. And so while we look at this thing, it says, well, this is what they're having to do. They're taking fewer vacations. Okay, so we're looking through this, and it says 31% of renters say yes, 31% of owner or 36% of owners say yes. And again, right, we can see this as millennial Gen Z renter, millennial Gen Z owner, renter, owner, renter, owner. And as we go through this, what's interesting is says the owner 36% more, owner 40% more, owner 38% more, and they're all higher than the renter categories. And so when we look at this, what we do know is that rent is on the decline, especially when we think about where mortgage rates are, right? We have an affordability issue in the United States, specifically here in Colorado. You guys live in one of the highest price point states in the nation. And when we go up here, it says, well, what do they have to do? So have they gave up on reducing savings for their kids? And when we look at this thing, obviously, when we talk about the Gen Z population, that's probably going to skew these numbers a little bit. When we look at the baby boomer generation, which is going to be older than Gen X, it's going to skew. And then the people with primarily the kids, your millennial plus your Gen X, that's where they're saying, yes, we absolutely have. Healthcare. Okay, this is a little bit more alarming, right? Like I'm not sure that I'm necessarily equating like, oh God, you weren't able to take a vacation and not able to pay for kids' schooling. But when we look at like healthcare and medical treatment, like this definitely is a concerning number where we're looking at this and we're seeing that they're going and they're getting less healthcare done. No clue what that truly looks like. It doesn't have a asterisk to kind of read what that those numbers look like. But as we go through, skipping meals, ate out at restaurants last, and just some of these other things, right? Postpone getting a divorce or separation. I actually find that one a very interesting statistic as well, that they're saying like your Gen Z and millennial renters are actually not getting a divorce so they can afford a home. What? Right? Like when we look at this, like I don't understand what that truly means. But it says move in with their romantic partner to be able to afford this, moved in with roommates. We think about house hacking. Like this should come to no surprise. Obviously, when we look at this and we start thinking about how much it costs, everything is getting more expensive. And so, two is greater than one, three is greater than two, right? Like, and house hacking has become a bigger and bigger thing. Moving back in with the parents to be able to save money, like, guys, here is all of the stuff. Like, we're seeing this, and this comes to no surprise. And so, while we're looking at this, get an extra job, get a side hustle, work additional hours, have a yard sale. I don't know what's sold my below. I don't know if that's Beanie Babies or if this is Pokemon cards or I don't know what this is. borrowed money from family and friends. Guys, we've seen GoFundMe's set up to where people are like, I'm looking to buy a house. I know that Mitch has told us that they have a program actually for people to have their wedding registration to where people can actually fund money into it to where people can actually go use that money to go buy houses. Gifts again. I've had to give up my pets, also super sad when I look at this thing. And then enrolled my children into low-rated schools. Again, not a huge number, but obviously it has popped up. So, guys, as we look at this thing, like none of this comes to a surprise, right? And again, while this headline is what got my attention, I think what's interesting as we go through, again, it's an affordability issue. And so what we need to be able to do is, do we truly know, and this is a real question, do you guys truly know the people that are in your ecosystem, the people that are in your world that look at you as the real estate economist of choice, where are they getting their news from? Do they still believe that you have to have 20% down? Also, what we know is that when we were looking at these consumer protection acts, specifically when it comes to loan programs, and how it is on the chopping block right now. Right, we had consumers. What they would do is they would enter in their numbers online, and next thing they were knowing, they were getting bombarded by all kinds of lenders trying to sell them the best prices and the best rates, and not knowing any of their information. Well, that's going away. And we do know that people were raising their hands to figure out, like, what do I qualify for? And then they were getting all of these solicited messages that were coming through. They didn't realize they were getting set up for that, but they did give their information and then they got bombarded. And so I think that when we're going forward, I think that firstly, we all need to sit down with our lenders and figure out kind of what this stuff looks like, right? Like we need to go through and figure out what loan programs are available, especially for first-time home buyers, knowing that the American dream isn't dead, it's just prolonged, right? We know that the average age for a home buyer, for first-time home buyers, 38 years old. They're almost in their 40s now when they're like, yes, I can finally afford a house. So then when we're looking back and we're saying, okay, they're skipping meals, they're moving back in with their parents until they're 40. But is that because they truly can't afford it, or is because the process is very encumbering, and because they're getting their news from YouTube and CNN and Fox? And what are we doing to really figure out the truth to get that information out here, guys? I implore everyone, get on social media, get on your newsletters, go in and have these conversations. What would it look like to go through and actually to pull this thing up and say, hey, just read a news article about avocado toast and how young renters can't afford their rent, or they can't afford a mortgage. And we really just wanted to go through and shed some light on some things, go and talk to a lender and put that information out there. Right, guys? I think that a lot of this is, if we were to really peel back the onion on a lot of this stuff, it's because they genuinely do not understand what the home buying process looks like, because they're getting their information from YouTube. They're getting their information from news articles that have an ulterior motive. And so, again, tongue on cheek, when we look at this, I thought it was a funny headline, but then reading into it, it's actually really, really depressing. And as the real estate economist of choice, what we should be doing is reaching out to our people, having conversations, and help educate them. I do think this is interesting as well. And as we're looking at this thing, and we're just talking about the cost of money and people living in their homes longer, right? Again, like we're having these conversations. We're talking to big time lenders that are occupying the space, and what they're having the conversations with these people that are raising their hands to figure out what they qualify for, right? Purchase mortgage application data is up. We'll look at it. And what we're seeing is that people are going through and they're saying, hey, when I do purchase my home, it's going to be my forever home. Like that's literally the mentality that a lot of people have. Also, we know about the golden handcuffs, right? Where people are locked into their 3%. And as long as no life is happening, because here's the deal, life happens, people are going to move. People are going to get married, they're going to have babies, they're going to get a job across in a different state, they're going to get deployed, there's going to be death, there's going to be divorce. Like people are buying and selling, right? We all understand this. Like the cycles of buying and selling is going to be continuous and it's always going to happen. And when we think about the golden handcuffs, where someone's life is just going well, There's no really any big milestones or major life events that is forcing them to move or even consider moving. And they're locked into 3%. Well, what are they going to be doing? There's going to be things that are going to happen where they're going to like, oh, it might be time to do this. It might be time to renovate X. It might be time to replace Y. And they're going to go through and we're seeing HELOCs pop back up. And so Chase Bank, right? So when we go through here, here's a big time bank. And it says the bank previously offered HELOCs, but paused new applications in 2020. All right. So as we look at everything and we think about the uncertainty and the COVID, the global pandemic, which was COVID, and Chase Bank said, okay, cool. So we don't know what the housing market looks like or is going to look like in the future. And so they paused everything. And now they're bringing it back. All right. So they're bringing back the HELOC. And so I think a couple things. And again, we want to go through and we want to make sure that we are educated as whether it's to fund a home reno, they want to debt consolidation, or another financial goal. This is where we use a HELOC. And so we're having conversations with people. Maybe they want to build an ADU, right? Think about how it's getting really, it's softening major in the Denver metro across all states, actually, because of this housing crisis that we actually truly do have. And so we're actually seeing ADUs pop up. Well, what kind of conversation would it look like to be the real estate economist of choice when we are trying to help people hit their financial goals? And we're going through and we're saying, hey, friend, have you ever thought about maybe building an ADU in the back of your home to be able to bring in some income from rentals? And they're like, well, we actually don't have the money. Well, when was the last time that someone actually ran a report to actually figure out how much equity you have in your home? Right. So we go through, we do this equity analysis. Let's get rid of the CMA. Let's call it an equity analysis and say, hey, how about I do this for you? How about you're a buddy of mine. I want to see you win. I want to see us level up together in this game called life. And what would it look like if I did an equity analysis where I look at what you bought your home for and figure out the amount of equity you have in your home? And did you know that HELOCs are coming back? And so when we look at this, right, they're saying that these HELOCs, that someone can actually go through and access up to 80% of their home's value without altering their current mortgage rate. So they get to use their home like a credit card, if you will. But most people don't have $400,000 in purchase capability on a credit card. Unless you guys have that credit card black, that Amex black card, like most people can't do this. And so when we look through, can we use our home? And here's the deal, like we're not going to go buy a new car. Like don't use a HELOC to go buy a new car. That's absolutely stupid. And yet when we go through this, how can we appreciate value into the asset that we already have to actually either bring in more income or increase the value of said asset? And so we can access this 80%. We go through, and this is what it looks like. They're saying 25 to 40, $400,000, and they can take 85% of it in one lump sum. Okay, cool. So we're getting 85% of it year one, and then we can take the remainder over three different draws, right? Three different pools of money over the next 3 years. And then they go through and it says for repayment, customers can choose the down payment, the principal at any time, or interest only payments for the next 10 years, followed by 20-year repayment on the balance. Guys, like I think this is a great product, right? We go through and there's people, and again, my mind goes to ADU. If someone has a yard that is going to allow ADUs, and remember, one of the biggest red flags, one of the biggest yellow tapes that were around people putting ADUs was parking requirements. But now all the states and the cities and the municipalities are getting rid of these parking requirements because, again, we have a housing crisis, and they're trying to go through and they're trying to figure out like how can we get more people in homes, whether it's renting or owning, like that's what they're trying to do. So it's going through, and guys, like this is one of those things where I would probably even just go through, and maybe what I would do is homework. If I'm a homeowner, I'm probably going to go and I'm probably going to go reach out to maybe even Chase and just figure out like what that might look like for me. Go through the process. Go through the process, right? Go through and figure out what this looks like, be an expert in it, and then put this information out here. So then when you're at the football game or you're at the barbecue or you're at the child's birthday party, whatever this looks like, And then you're like, you know what? They're like, hey, how's the real estate business? And you're like, oh, it's really good. I actually just went through this trial with Chase Bank and just to kind of go through their HELOC program. Because I know a lot of people are looking to increase their wealth through real estate. And one of the things that we've seen is that Colorado's loosening the requirements and the restrictions on ADUs. And so going through this process, what we've been able to go see is this is what it looks like to actually go borrow money to get out of the equity of your home to actually go and enhance your home's value and to bring in more income. Guys, I think you look like a rock star. You go down this path. Let's switch gears a little bit and let's look at Resi Club. And it says the number of major housing markets with falling home prices stands at 105 out of 300. All right, guys. So 105, we're not 250%, but we're pretty close, right? And so what we're doing is we're looking at a year over year basis. Remember, everything that we do is pretty much rear view facing, right? If anyone says that, hey, this is what we're going to see in the next few years, they might be lying, right? No one has a crystal ball. And if you do, let's get into business together and we'll make a lot of money. And yet, with that being said, when we look at this rear view facing data, so it says home prices. And so what it's doing is it's going January to January, February to February. You can see like this number is just creeping up, but then it did revert back a little bit. So July, it actually said, oh no, 5 of them made it back to at least flat, right? That's all this number is saying, at least flat, 105. So we go through here. Let me enlarge this for you a little bit. Housing markets where home prices are falling. All right, we're looking for CO. You guys live in Colorado. We're looking for CO. And we are here, Denver, Colorado, 2.93%. What we do know is, historically speaking, the nation has seen 4% year over year increase since the 1990s. What we are seeing now is Denver, Colorado, and this would be the Denver metro for the most part, right? This would include Lakewood and Golden and us and Arvada, right? When we're looking at this negative 2.93% appreciation year over year. So saying home values are going downward. And so when we think about this, I think that a couple things. Firstly, let's take a reality check. No one's losing value. No one's losing money unless you bought your home at the height of the market and or you just recently bought your home and maybe you bought it a little bit higher than what you should have and it's going in reverse. But yet for the most part, as we're going through here, I think this is opportunity for buyers. What we're seeing is this. We are seeing homes that are sitting on the market a little bit longer than what they have been. And with those homes, that means there's opportunity. There's opportunity for buyers. When we talk about the motivated, remember, we were talking about the motivated earlier, the people that are getting married, they're having babies, they are running out of space, or they're getting a job promotion across to a different state, or they're leaving their job and they're going somewhere else. Death, divorce, all of these motivating factors could be happening. And when we talk about these motivating factors, that means there's opportunity. What we also know is we've seen this. We've seen minimum $10,000 on average in concessions in Colorado, right? Our friends over at Land Title gave us that data, and they're keeping us apprised of that to where we're seeing home prices go down. We're seeing inventory go up. We're seeing days on market go up. And what are we seeing? We're seeing home prices go down, and we know that we're getting concessions. And the NAR Commission lawsuit, guys, honestly, is probably one of the best things that could have happened to our industry. And what I mean by that is you guys have so much negotiation powers now. It is awesome. And with those negotiation powers, what you're able to go through is you're able to help your clients win. And so what I would challenge everyone to do, like with this data, is let's not get all bummed out and let's not let people get crazy, right? You're going to be at a dinner party. You're going to be at something where someone's going to say, I saw on the news where people in Colorado are losing values on their home. And then that's when we go through and we do the equity analysis again for them, right? Where we go and we say, well, yeah, if you bought your home at the height of the market, then yes, you could have lost money. But what we do know is more people are sitting in their homes longer. And most people, because we've seen 4% year over year appreciation most years, they're actually sitting on a lot of untapped equity. And then we can reverse it back to the HELOC. We go through and we look at this a little bit. And you guys can kind of see this. This is the 1 year in metro level home prices that has decreased, right? So here you guys are. This is us. And then here's the increase, right? And so like we got one minor area in Colorado. I think what's also interesting, what I wanted to show you guys was this. It says US housing permits by category. And you can see this. We got the dark green, that's single family homes. We have this gray line, which is all the way here at this bottom. That's your multifamily 2 to 4. So that's like your row homes. That's like your townhomes and stuff. That's kind of where my mind goes. And then your multifamily 5 plus. Well, guys, take a look at this. I'm going to shrink it down a little bit just so I can get it in here. So we're looking at this and we're at the height. Single family homes being built. We're at the height of this. Well, then what happens? The Big Short, the housing recession, right? Where we go through and the builders were caught holding the bag. And again, guys, that's your homework. If you have not watched that movie, you need to watch the movie. It's for informational purposes, right? To where we go through here and we can see that they stopped producing houses. They got hit the hardest. And that's why we see what we see in Colorado. We don't see a whole lot of homes built on spec. Very few builders are building on spec. What they're doing, and you guys have lived through this, you go through, you identify your piece of dirt, you hand them money, earnest money, non-refundable, because that's what the Colorado contracts for builders look like, that their attorneys write. And they say, hey, we'll see you in 12 months from now. We'll build you this house. And if you walk away, we get to keep your earnest money. So we saw this, right? So then they crashed. And we saw a little bit of a spike when we saw this little bit of a housing boom when money was free and people were on a frenzy. And then it spiked down a little bit. And we've kind of gone up, but it's going back down. But during this time, what we have seen is this multifamily, 5 or more units is going up. And abysmal multi-units, this is abysmal. Like it's just flat. They're gonna bang them out when they need to bang them out, but it's not higher demand, it's not lower demand, it just is what it is. And so when we go through and we look at this, guys, this is what we're going to continue to see. And this is why I actually believe that we will continue to see elevated prices across the board. Yes, we are going to go through periods where we do have little dips, but guys, if we were to look at this, there's only one time in the recent history where people lost money on housing, and that's right here. That is literally right here where we've gone through, and that's where we actually saw people actually having negative returns as a whole as our society goes. And so as we're going through and we're looking at this, what we're going to see is more builders building these multifamily because it costs them less money. They go out, they buy a piece of dirt, they erect tall 5 plus, right? And they're going through and it costs them less to build because they can put more on less. Whereas the single family, what we're going to see is we're going to see less of these being built because there's less demand for it and it's more expensive because of the cost of money and everything else that's associated with it. And then Jerome Powell signals possible rate cut, but we'll talk about it. So then we go through and it goes on to this as well. So we just looked at this where we saw a decline and now it's taken a little bit more of a beating. And it says construction ticks up, but builders are still glum. And so as we're going through, we're looking at this as a single family housing permit starts and completions all rose in July. But the industry continues to face strong headwinds led by softening demand. Okay, so when we're talking about softening demand, I think this all makes a whole lot of sense, right? Again, what we're seeing is we're seeing many builders go through and they're having to offer major incentives. All right, so it says housing starts were up 5.2% compared to June. And we know this. We know that we live in a pretty market where it is seasonal, right? This market is very seasonal, especially in Colorado, guys, right? We have people that it starts to snow and they're going up in the mountains, they're going snowboarding, they're going skiing, they're doing all these different things, like they're disappearing. And so housing starts were up 5.2% compared to June, reaching a seasonality adjusted about 1.43 million units, according to the US Census. And if anyone knows about the US Census, like this is mandatory. Like the census goes in and they want this information. There's jail time if you do not give them the information they're looking for. So then we go through and it says, what are they doing? What are they having to do? And so they also have building challenges, right? With the cost of money going up, we think of the cost of money as far as interest rates, right? Like that's just our business. We deal with the highest price point product that most Americans buy in their lifetime. And so the cost of money is actually what slows a lot of these people down. Well, when we think about this, the cost of money also affects business owners and affects employment. And so what is happening is it costs them more money to borrow money. And so then with prices going up, especially when we start thinking about lumber, we start thinking about labor, we start thinking about all these different things, well, then they have to raise their prices. Well, if they have to raise their prices because they have shareholders, they're not the March of Dimes, they are for-profit companies. What this looks like is that then they have to go figure out other creative ways to actually get more people through there. So sales incentives, it says the survey found that 37% of builders have been cutting their prices in August. And here's the deal, guys. They will sit on dirt before they actually just keep building, right? They're going to do whatever they can to keep their prices elevated, as they should. And when this looks at, they offer these incentives. It says incentives were used by 66% of respondents in August, which is up 62% in July, and the highest percentage since the end of the pandemic. Guys, all this is showing is that we're all in it. And while we do know that builders are their own bank, and historically speaking, they've been able to offer lower rates, this is affecting everybody at this point. But what I would say is this. It says, with builders expressing pessimism about the market, addressing the shortage of housing continues to be challenging, especially during a period of economic uncertainty. The housing market remains structurally undersupplied. And guys, we see this. Like, unless you're living under a rock, like we see housing going up. There are more people living in America today, obviously, than there has ever been. And so when we go through and we look at this, more people living in the United States, the only reason why we have so much inventory is because of the cost of money. We know there's multi-generational people living in housing, sometimes 3, 4 times, right? It could be great grandparents, grandparents, parents, children, right? To where we could see all of these families living under one roof. And the reason for that, again, is because of the cost of money. And so we know that historically speaking, we're not going to live through the cost of money being so high for the remainder of time. Now, here's the deal. We're not going to see 3% ever again. That was a gift from God, right? Like we're not going to see that. And honestly, that caused a lot of the issues that we're in right now. And so hopefully everyone on this call was able to take, some kind of jump at those lower interest rates, but know that they're not going to ever come back. What most economists believe is that we're going to land at like 5, 5.5. And that's where we're going to live, 5, 5.5. And so when we look at this and we're having these conversations with our buyers, with our sellers, knowing that we're probably not going to see a giant swing, we need to figure out what their motivations are, why they're looking to buy, why they're looking to sell, what their intent is to help them move forward. So let's go and let's look at what Logan Motoshami has to say. And when we go through, it says mortgage rates reached a new year-to-date low. You're there, guys. Again, this is Friday data. So we're a couple days behind, rear view facing. But guys, you're there. We do know that the Fed is most likely going to cut rates next month, couple weeks away. And yet, guys, we don't think that's going to really instrumentally impact the rates. The rates are pretty much already baked in. Now, here's the deal. He goes through and he cuts 50 basis points. Could rates go a little bit lower? Absolutely, they could. Do we think that we're going to, if they go and drop 25 basis points, are rates going to drop on mortgages 25 basis points? Probably not. Because we have to keep in mind that banks also are for-profit companies. So we go through, we have the Fed. This is what they're lending to banks at a percentage. The banks have to make money. This is what they're lending at a percentage. They don't want to drop too quickly and too hard because then what happens is refinances happen and they lose money. That's why we're not seeing any like astronomical drop right now. And while we're probably not going to see one next month either. But yet again, if we think that we know, again, no crystal ball, that the floor is really 5.5, how much further can we really go over the next 16 months? Probably not much further, right? And so when we go through, it says during his speech at Jackson Hole Economic Summit, finally acknowledged that he was concerned about the labor market. Again, while we think of interest rates and the cost of money affecting the cost of housing, it also affects people looking to build, employ people, expand. And so as it's complicated, since the jobs report showed an advantage or an average of just 35,000 jobs being created for the last 3 months, it won't take much to make the Fed feel better about the labor market. Even if job growth only picks up towards 75,000 per month, this might satisfy their jobs data. So we're not going to look at the 10-year yield. We're not going to talk about the spreads. But let's talk about purchase application data. Guys, I can't shout this any louder from the rooftops. We need to be making sure that we're going out, we're having as many conversations with our consumers as possible. The reason for this being is we're seeing more people go figure out what they qualify for. And do you know if any of these people that are in this August 19th data, remember rear view facing, were any of these your family, your friends, the people that you're in your fantasy football league with, right? Like, what is this? Who are these people? Are you communicating that you are the real estate economist of choice for your consumer, or are they going around you? Did they go online and put in their information? They got a hold of a lender. The lender partnered them with a real estate agent that was not you. And that's my biggest concern for all of you. It really is, guys. Like, we're looking at this thing. Here's 2024. Here's 2025. We are seeing more people raise their hand to go talk to lenders, even with the cost of money being where it's at. They're trying to position themselves in a position because we know life happens. People have been sitting on the sideline for way too long. Interest rates were elevated, economic uncertainty, fear mongering from CNN, Fox News, YouTube, insert wherever you get your news from here. And guess what? We're going to be okay. The world's not coming to an end. And so what do people need? People need housing. People need a roof over their head. They need food, water, shelter. And so when we look at this thing, we're going to see more and more people raise their hand and go forward. Your pending sales list, guys, here we are. We're slightly above 2024. We're slightly above 2023. We will cross 2022. Remember, 2022, things got weird. Interest rates skyrocketed, made the cost of money really, really high, really, really fast, scared a lot of people. We didn't know what tomorrow was going to bring with interest rates getting crazy. So people pumped the brakes. So this number will cross over at some point. Your pending sales data, again, seasonality, we're kind of right on track when we look at this thing. And here we are, inventory. And guys, this is what I'm saying. Inventory, home prices going down a little bit in the Denver metro. Inventory's on the rise. That's really what's causing a lot of this. We think of the principle of substitution. We know that people don't want to pay more money for the same product that they can get cheaper somewhere else. Think about Blockbuster and Amazon, right? They used to call, or not Blockbuster and Amazon, I'm sorry, Amazon and Best Buy. They used to call Amazon, Amazon was using Best Buy as their showroom, right? They used to call Best Buy Amazon showroom. People would go look at it and go on Amazon and purchase it. And so when your consumers are going through and they're seeing this is the houses that I have for this price point in this neighborhood, and they're all 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes, they're going to choose the cheaper one. So what does that do? Well, the motivated got to drop their price, right? They have to be the cheapest home. And that's why I think there's tons of opportunity for your buyers right now. We go through your new listing data, guys, as we're going in, more inventory is coming online. Price cuts are going up. We're at 42%. 42%. We know historically speaking, they've been typically 1/3. 33% of all homes take a price cut. And again, this is your motivated. These are your motivated sellers. Death, divorce, marriage, babies, promotion, demotion, being deployed, like motivation's happening and they need to sell their house. And so motivation's happening. How do we get in front of people that need to buy? And your jobless claim, guys, we need to watch this. This is going to be one of the biggest things that's going to dictate a lot of stuff. We'll see what it looks like next month, but we do not want Americans to lose their jobs. super anti-American, but what we do know is this: if we do see a big tick in jobless claims, the Fed has to stimulate the economy. What are they going to do? They're going to lower the cost of money. Then the affluent is going to go buy more houses. That's just kind of the life cycle of what this looks like. We have a job loss recession Fed. And so when we start seeing job losses, that means that people have less money, which means they can't afford products. Money or the expansion comes to a halt, and then we have a panic. But here we go, guys. Let's look at mortgage rates. And here we are. This is 1 month. Guys, this is great data. Not only is it going down, but it's going down very, very smoothly. This is what we want to see. We don't live in a third world country. We live in the United States of America. And so when we want to know about the certainty of money, this is what we want to see. I want to know if I put my home on the market today, 30 days from now, I kind of want to have an understanding of what the cost of money is going to be, because I don't want to be stuck selling my house and then having rates skyrocket to where my affordability gets dwarfed. And so this is great. This is great. Like, we want this. We want flat, no roller coasters. We want to see it just on cruise control moving forward. This is certainty. This is great. This is great information. And so we look at this, guys, 30-year conforming 6.5, your FHA 6.3. Guys, this is stuff that where we want to go through. We want to shout this from the rooftop. We do not think that we're going to see a 25 basis point drop. We don't think that we're going to get to like 6.1. We don't think that we're going to get to 6.25 by next month. Most likely it's not going to happen. Again, I don't have a crystal ball, but don't be that real estate agent putting that garbage out on social media. That's just not the reality. But we do need to be able to talk to our people and say, well, actually, most of that's baked in, because the banks are the ones that are actually going through and giving the rates. And they're not going to drastically drop anything, because if they do, they're going to have a refi frenzy hit them, and then banks will start to lose money. So what we have been seeing is this gradual, slow decrease. And this is great. And this is what this thing looks like. And then real quick, guys, I want to show Altos data. We live in A2. That's where the market center is. And we can kind of see this, and we've been seeing some little bit of decreases, right? We saw the median home price go down, as well as the median listing. And so when we talk about median, remember, that's just where we take all the outliers and we make our way into the middle. So this is saying if we take out the cheap homes, we take out the most expensive homes, we're about 650 here in A2. Your price per square foot has gone down a little bit at 363. And then let's look at this average days on market versus median. Average days on market, all of them together divided by total, 85 days. What this tells me, if we price the home wrong, we're probably going to be on the market for about 3 months. But yet, if we price the home right, remember, we take out all the outliers, we make our way into the middle, median 35 days. These are the conversations we need to be having with our sellers when pricing a home. If we price it too high, we're going to be chasing the market down, and we're going to be on the market for about 85 days. This is what the data is telling us. If we price the home right, we could be moving on to the next journey, the next chapter in your life within 1 month. Your price cut percentages, guys, 59%. We're almost at 60%. We're beating the national average. Kind of scary, but that's just where we are. And then when we look at this thing, your relisted homes, nothing exciting. Price increases, nothing exciting. Your median rent, $2,500. So this goes back to our first thing when we were talking about avocado toast, that rent is significantly cheaper than what we would see the monthly payment for a mortgage at this point right now. So this is why we've actually seen this big shift. And then it gives your market action report of 39, which is just saying it's a little bit better of a seller's market this month than it was last month. Not much, but guys, we are slowly ticking down towards this balanced market right here. Not good, not bad, just means that we need to be making sure that we're having as many conversations as we possibly can.